والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. اللهم ارزقنا يا رب فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين في عافيته يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم افتح علينا فتوح العارفين وفقهنا في الدين وعن التأويل واهدنا إلى سواء السبيل. اللهم انفعنا وارفعنا وعرفنا بالعلم النافع وانفعنا به أنفسنا وأهلنا ووطننا وديارنا وجميع المسلمين يا رب العالمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نويت التعلم والتعليم والمذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث المسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقرب ثواب سبحانه وتعالى مع عدة وعفو برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك علما المرسفيهن وغني. اللهم إنا نسألك علما المرسفيهن وغني. اللهم إنا نسألك علما المرسفيهن وغني. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. والحمد لله رب العالمين. نوينا بدرسنا هذا الكتاب للعالم الحبيب عمر بن حفيظ أن نرزقنا حسن التعليم لأولادنا وتربية أولادنا حتى ندخل في سرور النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يسر بنا ويسر بأمته المحمدية وحتى ندخل في من مدح عنهم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يوم القيامة. فاتحة. Alright, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, we are on our book. من كتاب مقاصد الحلقات التعاليم ووسائلها للحبيب عمر بن محمد بن سالم بن حفيظ نفعنا به وبعلومه في الدارين إلى أن قال. So from the book, the aims and objectives of circles of knowledge, right? And how do we reach these aims and objectives? By the great scholar and knower of Allah, Habib Umar. May we be benefited by him and by his knowledge in both abodes. Till where he has said, so al-muqaddimah, right? Did anyone mark where are we at? We are muqaddimah, the beginning. Muqaddimah. Alright. Al-muqaddimah. لا تعجز أخي المؤمن ولا تكسل عن الساعي لعقد حلقات التعليم للأطفال والشباب وكبار في مدينتك أو قريتك فإن نبيك محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم قال لك من دعا إلى هدى كان له من الأجر مثل أجر من تبعه ولا ينقص ذلك من أجورهم شيئا. رواه مسلم عن أبي هريرة. اقرأي إنجليزية.
My dear Muslim brothers and sisters, do not be lazy and neglectful in establishing circles of seeking knowledge in your area for children, youth and adults. For your Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, on the authority of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, whoever calls to guidance will receive the same reward as those who follow him without anything decreasing from their reward.
Okay, so that's the first part, right? That he began the introduction to the book, right? So the first and foremost, he said, do not feel like you're incapable, right? So the first thing when you want to begin teaching anyone, right? And in fact, Habib Umar at the beginning, he actually says about the kinds of circles of knowledge that you might want to hold, right? So what he's going to say in this book, it does include children, it includes young adults, it includes teenagers, and it includes adults, like big older people. Right, so don't think that you are not capable. Don't think that you can't do this. Right, so don't be unable to, right, to do this. Oh my Muslim brother. So he's addressing the one who is reading this. And we mentioned from before, this book was written when he was in his 20s, Habib Umar. Right, and he wrote this book. He actually wrote this book into this. He actually wrote this book because he saw that many people did not know how to teach, and they don't know what to focus on when they teach. Right, especially the religious knowledge. Right, so and you mentioned that these principles can be extended to all knowledges, whether it's religious or non-religious in nature. All of it can be extended to all knowledges, right? So Habib Omar, he said that don't feel that you're not able to, and do not be lazy about doing this, right? About making this halakat, making these circles of knowledge. Right? It is recommended, right, for us to start, right, something amongst our family once a week, right? And it is highly, highly recommended for every family to have one day whereby you come together, right, and you read something and you learn something together. It's actually highly recommended for families to do it even without an ustad there, right? So you read like from a very clear book, right? So for example, you read from Fadail Amal, right, the benefits of Amal, or you read from Imam Al-Haddad's counsels, because Imam Al-Haddad's counsels of the religion is very, very clear, right? He says things very clearly. You don't really need anyone to explain it for you, right? So Imam Al-Haddad, Imam Ghazali, there are people who they say that they are the teacher of those who read their books, right? So you can start small, right, and you should, right, have once a week at least, right, amongst, and start it now when they are still young, right? So they're used to like every Friday after Zohor, for example, or every what day after, one of the prayers, we actually sit down, right, and we talk. Right, we talk and we read something from a book, from an ulama, from an alim, and we talk about it. Right, when you do that, Habib Tahir, he was the one, he said, once a week you should do this. Right, so Habib Tahir said that when you do this, right, first and foremost, you are spreading knowledge amongst your children, right, and your family. You're spreading knowledge. Second thing is that when you do this, right, you become a place whereby they turn to, right, to seek religious knowledge. Right, so they know that, and you can teach them, right, all these meanings and all of these principles. Right, so like my mother, she used to do it every Sunday morning. Right, so we would pray subuh together, and then we will read the Quran together, and then she will go through the meanings of the Quran. She will actually go through the meanings of the Quran, and she will pull out lessons, right, from the Quran for us as the children. Right, so once a week, just once a week, right, do it, right, together as a family and talk about it. Right, so they see that this really keeps the family bonded, and it keeps you on a same mentality. Right, so if let's say there needs to be any teguring, right, to do, right, it can be done not directly, right, but through the book. Right, you speak about matters, like about conduct, about good behavior, about this, about that. Like this morning I was having a hadith class. This morning I was having a hadith class, and the hadith we're talking about is about where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and there are hadiths, there are books that speak about hadiths that speak only about good conduct, about good behavior. Right, there are books that focus on hadith that speak about good behavior. Right, so this kind of hadith, they will speak about things like, it is from the profession of a person's Islam, is him leaving what does not concern him. Right, and there are hadiths about Islam speaks about the tongue. Right, nothing will bring you to the fire more easily than this thing down here. And he held his tongue to Ibn Mas'ud and he said, hold on to this, meaning jaga, control your tongue. Right, that is better for you. So there are many hadiths about some focus on character. Right, so even then, right, you can even use the words of Rasulullah and just share with your family. Right, so this halaqat, within yourselves. Right, every family should have at least once a week. Right, do a halaqah, right, whereby you can, and it becomes a practice within the family. So when they are young, they know this happens. My father, when we were very young, right, the one about the halaqah, we read the Quran together, and my mother explained, that was when we were in our teenage years. When we were very young, right, my father, he used to have Thursday night, right, whereby we will read Yasin together, right, and he would teach us something about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was very casual, like primary school, and he would always bring ice cream. Right, so there will always be ice cream there. Right, so we all know that particular night, right, everybody is home, nobody is studying that night, because every night usually my mother makes us study. My mother has a very regime. Right, so on Thursday nights we don't study, right, but we read something together, and then we have ice cream after that. Right, so in a way, like to bring the primary school kids, right, there's the younger kids together. So you do something age appropriate, but have a halaqah. Let them understand the halaqah, right? So they know what is halaqah. They know, that in this situation, what do we talk about? At their age appropriate, activities or books. So have something more picture, something more visual, if you could lah. Right, and then the father has to be there. So it's not like, I'm just not saying the mother only and with the kids. Right, it's a family gathering. Habib Tahir really emphasized on this. Right, the entire family needs to be there. Right, it's called family time lah. So the whole family needs to be there, father, mother, and kids. Right, and if possible, best, the father leads it. right? Not the mother. Right? Get the father so that the children will see him since they are young, that he is the figure of religious authority. Right? So then they have respect for their father and they will obey when he says, when he instructs them. Inshallah. Right. And then from this halaqah, right, you get to know your children when you get them to speak up. Right? And you hear what they have to say and you hear their opinions. Right? And if they're brought up on this, as they grow up, they will begin to voice out, right, what they think about the hadith, what do they, the questions that they have about the hadith or whatsoever, right? So, or the problems that they face in school, right, they will just throw it out. Like just like any halaqah, right? When I bring up stuff, like you all will have your own issues that you will bring it up, right, during the halaqah. Same thing, right? From there you establish an open door, right, between you and your children, right? So, inshallah. So Rasulullah SAW says that, right, whosoever calls to guidance, right, so for him is the reward, like those who do whatever he is calling to, right, or like those who has followed him in his guidance without their reward being reduced in any way, right? So a halaqah, so don't be stopped from having a halaqah, right? Because whatever they do, right, you will get the same reward, right? And of course, with your children, it's even better lah, because no one else will get to them before you, right? So if you teach them the Fatiha, then all of their Fatihas for their whole life, right, all of the reward goes back to you. Right, so if you can, make yourself be the one to teach them Fatiha, so you gain all the rewards. You were the ones who taught it first, right, to them. Right, so everything after that, right, all the sunnahs, all that they will do, it will all go back to you, right, because you taught them first. Right, ونستمر. مسلم محمد وروى مسلم عن أبي وقال صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم بلغوا عني ولو آية. رواه بخاري عن عبد الله بن عمر. وقال صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم إن الله وملائكته وأهل السماوات وأهل الأرض حتى النملة في حجرها وحتى الحوت في البحر لا يصلون على معلم الناس الخير. رواه الترمذي وقال حديث حسن صحيح. وقال صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم فوالله لأن يهدي الله بك رجلا واحدا خير لك من حمار النعم. رواه البخاري ومسلم عن علي رضي الله تعالى عنه وكرم الله وجهه. Okay, we stop there. Iqra'i. Who wants to read?
He also said convey this message on my behalf, even if only a verse. The Prophet ﷺ further stated, indeed Allah, the angels, those in the heavens and on the earth, even the ant in its manifold, the fish in the sea, send peace upon the one who teaches others goodness. Also on the authority of our master Ali ibn Abi Talib, the Prophet said, by Allah, if Allah guides one man through you, that is better for you than great camels.
Alright. So here, Habib Umar, he mentions a few hadiths, right, to encourage people to have this halaqat. Right, to encourage people to start to teach. Whatever you learn, you teach, you spread. Right, so it's not that, you have to be an ustazah or you have to go and study very hard, you have to go, something that is as simple as good counsel, right, or good advice, right, we need to spread this. Right, and the ulama of the past, they have written books that are simple enough, right, for someone to pick it up, right, and to read. And Imam Al-Haddad is one of those who has done that. Right, his books are, they are very clear books. Right, so I really recommend Counsels of the Religion. Right, it's very clear, his book. Counsel is in English, Counsels of the Religion. I think it's a very nice copy. You can find it at Wardah Books. It should be there. Right, so it's very clear, Counsel of the Religion. Right, correct. Counsel of the Religion. Yeah, so Nasiha Diniyah. Right, that's his book. So you can, and it's very clear. The English is very clear. You don't really need much further explanation. Imam Al-Haddad has explained everything in there, right? So you can have your circles of knowledge. So Rasulullah SAW said that spread, right, from me, even if it's a verse, right, one verse, right. And I was speaking to my friend this morning when I was having the hadith class, right, that the hadith of Rasulullah SAW, right, there are so many hadith, and a lot of it, right, have been neglected, especially hadith to do with character building. Right, so sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right, so and there are many lessons that you put from his hadith. There are many things. There's so many secrets in hadith. Right, which is why he says, Rasul himself said, tell them what I have said. Right, even if it's one verse, just tell them, right, what I have said. Right, so for example, Rasul says that it is enough as a lie for someone to spread whatever he hears. So you tell that to people. Right? Don't just go around spreading knowledge. Don't just go around spreading information or news. Right? What you should spread at all times are the words of Allah and the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? That should be spread without question. Right? But other than that, you shouldn't be spreading things, and you shouldn't be poking your business into things. You shouldn't be to spy and to have suspicion. It is not of Islam. Right, to condemn and to criticize, it is not on Islam. Rasulullah said that. So as all a hadith that you can share with people, Rasulullah said that al-rifq la yadkhulu fi shay illa zana. Right, the gentleness does not enter anything except that it makes it beautiful. Right, and harshness does not enter anything except that it makes it ugly. These are all words from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? That we can teach those who are around us, and it teaches us how to have good behavior, right? And then he further encourages us, right, Habib Omar, right? So this is hadith after hadith after hadith to encourage people to begin to teach and begin to spread, right? So he says that, so for surely Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, for surely Allah and the angels and all of the inhabitants of the skies in the heavens, meaning other inhabitants, the Hurul Ain and whatever is in paradise, above the angels, right? Wa Ahlul Jannah and all the inhabitants, Ahlul Ard and all the inhabitants of the earth, even the ants, right, in their ant holes, and even the fish in the sea, all of them, they are sending salawat onto the teacher who is teaching people good. All of these creatures all over the world, even in the heavens, are sending salawat. And the scholars say, what does it mean when they send salawat onto a person? It means they are seeking forgiveness for you. Your forgiveness is being sought for you, right? For such a person. So it's great, no? It's a very, very great affair, right? For you to do this, right? And it's a shame that if you're not even doing it within your own families, you need to do something, right? And that is how goodness spreads through the community, right? Rawahu Tirmidhi wa qala hadith Hasan. Right? And Rasulullah also said, Wallahi, and he said this to Sayyidina Ali, Wallahi. Right? And this is when during the Battle of Khaybar, there was one battle whereby he called Sayyidina Ali, right, to carry the flag and to conquer, right, the fortresses of the Jews. Right? Something happened during the battle and they had to conquer the Jews. So when he was walking forward, Rasulullah said, Sayyidina Ali, Ya Ali, right, call them to Allah, right? Fight them until they call them to Allah, and if you don't want to come to Allah, then fight them. And then he said, Oh Ali, if one of them was to be guided by you, if Allah guides one of them, right? If one of them is guided by Allah, right, by you, right, it is better for you than red camels, right? Meaning that if you can even guide one person, is better for you than the most expensive thing in this world. And in that time, it was red camels. Right, so and there's another hadith that says that it's better for you than the whole dunya and whatever is in it. So just to guide one person. Right, and for me, like previously, that I was talking to this one girl who came up to me and she said that she's basically not believing in this religion lah. Right, I was giving a speech somewhere, right, and she came up to me and she said that she's wearing hijab and everything, right, and she just said that I need to speak to you privately. So I spoke to her privately and she told me that I don't believe in Islam anymore. I stopped believing. Right? So I spoke to her lah. Right? So I sat her down, I spoke to her, I gave her my number and I exchanged with her. So I had a session with her and a few sessions with her to speak to her lah about her issues about Islam and why she has stopped believing at this point in her life lah. So after I spoke to her for a long period of time, maybe a few hours of speaking to her and answering all her questions and everything, she had so many questions. Then she was like, sorry, I took up all your time. And I take up, and I'm like, giving you all these questions, and you have a husband at home and whatever. Like she was saying that to me, right? But then I told her that there's a hadith whereby Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that, right, if you were to guide one person, this is the hadith lah, it is better for you than the entire world. Right? So for me, right, the fact that you came to me privately, right, and you told me this secret of yours that your own family has no idea about, the family has no clue that she has inwardly left Islam. Outwardly, she's still, in Islam, she still covers up everything, but she stopped praying. she stopped praying except in front of her family. Other than that, she doesn't pray. Right? So she has left Islam inside her, and she knows it. She knows she has left Islam. So her family has no idea. So I said to her that this is what your Prophet ﷺ has said. Like, even if it's one person, I will spend my whole day on you. If this was to help you. Because other people, they are already on Islam. They're just seeking knowledge. Right? But you actually need very serious help. Right? Because you have rejected a lot of things about Islam. Right? So I thought that it's not you don't even don't thank me because it's become wajib on me. Right? This is the most wajib thing on me right now. All my classes are not wajib. Because you all will find people to teach you anyway, right? So I know it doesn't have to be that. But the fact that you feel comfortable enough to tell me about this situation that you're going through, it has become wajib on me who knows your secret now to actually sit with you and answer your questions, right? And this is how we understand the hadith. Right? So if anyone, there's a hadith, if I'm not wrong, Imam Al has another book about da'wah, right? That when someone comes to you and asks you a question, it is wajib on you to answer them. It's haram on you to turn them away. And Imam Al-Haddad said that questions can be asked verbally or questions can be asked by action. So when you see someone doing something from ignorance, it is they're physically asking you a question, not verbally. Because they're doing something out of ignorance. So when you see that, you see a question being asked. How do I pray? Right, basically. Or is someone doing wudu wrongly? Or you see someone behaving wrongly? Or you see someone basically not knowing matters of religion? And they're not asking you questions verbally. But Imam Al-Haddad says their questions are on their body. Right? Their own being is a question. Right? They don't know how to do something. Or they don't know how to live their life. Or they don't know a lot of things. They don't even know that they don't know. Right? But the way they are is a question onto you, and now it's wajib for you to inform them. Right? Because they have asked you in their being. Right? So when I learned that, I was like, wow, mashallah. You never thought of it that way. You always thought it's a question that is being posed to you. By saying no, it's being posed to you by them saying it or not saying it. Right? But you see it. Right? And you have to answer that question by saying it. Right? So it's subhanallah. So it's on every single Muslim. It's not just on like the scholars. It's not just on those people who study the religion. It's on every single Muslim. Because when every single Muslim does this, right, sincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, only then will you have rectification of society. Right? So and it's your small camps lah. And even when the Westerners, they asked Habib Omar, they said that we're going back to the West. Right? And in the West, there are so much corruption in the West. And too many things that you worry for your kids about in the West. Right? So he asked them, they asked us, Habib Omar, what do we do? Right? We don't have, the kind of support system that we have in Tarim. Right? In the West, it's very corrupted. When you go out there and you see all kinds of music and all kinds of movies and all kinds of images, that you are afraid for your children. So he did say that you need to establish and create your own communities, right? Small communities whereby the people within this community, they hold on to the Quran and the Sunnah, right? So that will be your own community, right? And your children will grow up amongst these people, right? So you need to create small, like they call it what do they call it? There's a word for it. Basically small communities lah. There's the word for it. I forgot the word. Alright, so Masa Sayyidina Muhammad.
This one about teaching other goodness. Is it goodness related to Islam or any goodness?
In this case, it's any goodness. Any goodness that will benefit them.
So even to Muslims.
Because she asked the question if the goodness here means any goodness. Is any goodness. Right. As long as it benefits them. Of course, it's greater that if it benefits them in this world and the next one. Right? Because the thing about Islam is that Islam, the entire of Islam, right, is all the laws in Islam and all the beliefs in Islam, right, pushes all of humanity towards goodness that is progressive. Right? So if you can even help and do this amongst the non-Muslims, right, they will see, right, that this is something that is beneficial for them in their life. Right? So there are many things in Islam that help people, that help human beings live their life. Right? So even if you can help them focus on things that will benefit them, if they're in depression, if they're in whatsoever, you can help them in that, it is good. Right? Any form of goodness. Last time, yeah. وإن ربك جل جلاله يقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فلولا نفر من كل فرقة منهم طائفة ليتفقهوا في الدين ولينذروا قومهم إذا رجعوا إليهم لعلهم يحذرون. Okay, Surah Taubah, right, whereby Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala says, can someone read the translation? Alright. So this verse, right, in Surah Taubah, it was sent down on the account of jihad, on fighting. Right. So Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala says, right, when jihad became very big amongst the Muslims and it was expanding. Right. So He says that there needs to be a group of you, of Muslims, right, that that you stay behind, right, in the land of Medina or in the town, right, and you study and you understand and you teach this religion. Right, so that when those of them who has gone up for jihad and they come back, right, they can be warned and they can be taught. Right, this verse, what it means is that Allah is saying that no matter what, even something as major as jihad, then always has to be in this ummah a group of people, right, who study and they teach. Right, this is essential for the ummah to progress. Right, you can't have everyone going to go and fight. There has to be a group. There has to preserve the scholarship of this religion. Right, so that is what the hadith is saying. Right, so there is always a group that is doing this. Right, and it is mentioned that the ink of the scholar, it is better than the blood of the martyr. Right, because the scholar, he is basically the martyr. Right, he dies for the sake of Islam. Right, and the scholar, right, he brings others to life for the sake of Islam. Right, so the scholar, he goes around and he brings hearts to life, right, by teaching them about Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. فأحسن نيتك وأخلص في قصدك فإنما الأعمال بالنيات ألا لله الدين الخالص. سورة الزمر. واستعين بالله وتوكل على الله ومن يتوكل على الله فهو حسبه. وتواضع وتذلل وتأمل هذه المقاصد والوسائل وأحسن صلتك بصلحاء بلدك وأخيارها ولا يثبطنك مثبط ولا يضعف عزمك ولا همتك بالانتقاد المنتقد أو التخذيل المخذل أو استخفاف مستخف أو استهزاء المستهزئ أو تشكيك مشكك. فكثيرا ما يحصل ويصدر ذلك حتى من بعد أهل الخير في بعض الأحيان ابتلاء وامتحانا واختبارا ولكن ليس بعد حث الله ورسوله وصالح الأمة حث ولا بعد بيانهم بيان فألقي السمع وأنت شهيد. اقرأي.
Be humble and modest when reflecting upon these principles and strategies. Forge a strong relationship with the righteous and upright people in your area, and be unaffected by naysayers. Let not your desire or dissemination be wavered by the censures of cynics, the criticism of pessimists, the undermining of those that belittle, the jeering of mockers, or the doubts of skeptics. In endeavors like this, pessimism often arises, even from the people of good, as an ordeal and test. But there is no encouragement and no elucidation greater than that of Allah, His Messenger, and the righteous of this ummah. So listen attentively and become a witness to this.
Alright, so here Habib from before that he said it. So perfect your intention, right, and make pure your aim, your goal. Like just a bit above, for surely your actions are by their intentions, right, and for Allah is a pure and sincere religion, right, and seek the help of Allah and have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so of course this is very, very appropriate speech for people who are already breaking away from the norm, right, because you need to trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that what you are doing, you are trying your best, right, for your children, right, so and whatever you're doing you're trying your best, right, so first thing he said, to have good intentions, ahsin niyatak, right, so perfect your intentions, have good intentions, wa akhlis fi qasdik, right, and be pure and sincere in your aims and your goals. Fa innamal a'malu binniyat, right, for surely actions are only by their intentions. Ala lillahi dinul khalis, right, for surely the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pure and sincere. Wasta'in billah, and seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa tawakkal ala Allah, and have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa man yatawakkal ala Allah fahuwa hasbuh, and whoever has trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is enough for him, right. So then here we say, right, and have humility, right, and humbleness, right, and to follow this aims and objectives and the means of arriving to them, right, and have very good connections, right, to those who are pious in your country. Lisulaha baladika, right, have good connections and good sila, any good ties with those of your country, wa akhyarihi, and those who are good, the best in your community of the Muslims right, and do not be, and this entire passage here that he will say, do not be wavered, right, by those who are negative and those who discourage you, right, from what you are aiming, right, for those around you, right. So if you have sincere concern and you have sincere aims and reasons why you are teaching and why you are telling and why you are aiming for these people, right, then don't worry about what those people who are negative say, right, don't worry what they say, right, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given enough encouragement for you, right, to pursue what you believe in for their sake. And so you're doing all of this, right, only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet, and not for anyone else. So even if people are negative about it, even if people are pessimistic, even if people are discouraging about it, doesn't matter. Allah is the one who is encouraging, and Rasulullah is the one who is encouraging, right, and He will, and it's enough for us, right, what they have said, right, and we have heard it, right, and we have witnessed to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said. So don't worry and don't fear, right, but go on with what you believe in. قال حجة الإسلام والإمام الغزالي رحمه الله تعالى في الإحياء. So Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala في الإحياء, in the Ihya he said, اعلم, right, know, أن كل قاعد في بيته أينما كان فليس خاليا في هذا الزمان عن منكر من حيث تقاعد عن إرشاد الناس وتعليمهم وحملهم على المعروف فأكثر الناس جاهلون بالشرع في شروط الصلاة في البلاد، فكيف في القرية والبوادي؟ وواجب أن يكون في كل مسجد ومحلة من البلد فقيه يعلم الناس دينهم، وكذا في كل قرية، وواجب على كل فقيه فرغ من فرض عينه وتفرغ لفرض كفاية أن يخرج إلى من يجاور بلده من أهل سواد من العرب والأكراد وغيرهم، ويعلمهم دينهم وفرائض شرعهم، إلى أن قال وكل عام عرف شروط الصلاة فعليه أن يعرف غيره، وإلا فهو شريك في الإثم. ومعلوم أن الإنسان لا يولد عالما بالشرع، وإنما يجب التبليغ على أهل العلم وكل من تعلم مسألة واحدة فهو من أهل العلم بها. Right, so read Imam Ghazali saying.
The proof of Islam, Imam Al-Ghazali, may Allah have mercy on him, said in his book, the revivification
The revival of
of the religious sciences, Ihya al-Din. Know that anyone sitting in their homes, whether they may be, is not sheltered from wrongdoings in these times. This is because someone sitting at home is holding back from advising people, teaching them and encouraging them to goodness. Most city folk are ignorant of the Sharia in regards to the conditions of prayer, not to mention those living in villages and on the outskirts. It is necessary to have a jurist or faqih in every mosque in the city to teach the people their religion, and it should be so in every village as well. It is obligatory for the jurist who has fulfilled their individual obligations of Fardu Ain and has likewise fulfilled their communal obligations Fardu Kifaya to visit the surrounding sparsely inhabited areas to teach others their religion and the obligatory aspects of the Sharia. Continue?
yeah.
To the extent it is said that every lay person who learns the conditions of the prayer must teach someone ignorant of that knowledge, or else he shares in the ignorant one's wrongdoing. It is well known that humans are not born with knowledge of the Sharia, but have to learn it from those who have knowledge, and whosoever learns even one issue is considered of the people of knowledge in that issue.
Right, so that's what Imam Ghazali said. So Imam Ghazali says, right, so basically in his Ihya he mentions, right, that no one in their own houses, right, is free, right, from in his time, in Hadha Zaman, in his time, is it free from any form of munkar, right, and that is his time. Right, what do they have in their houses? And they're sitting in the house, and he said that nobody in the house is free from munkar. In our time, like the munkar is coming in, right, through the technology, right, so to TV, through the radio, internet, all over, right. You can be in your home and you can be committing like all kinds of sins, right, in your home, and you can even be by yourself. Right, you can be committing sins, right? And this, I don't know what Imam Ghazali is, his time, what he's seeing, Right, you can imagine, like, how can he even say that? Or what are they doing in their house? Right, so probably for them, like, maybe you mengumpat in your house, or other kinds of sins you can do in your house. For us, everything and anything can enter the home right now. So he's saying that, that it can happen, right, within the house, and munkar, right? And no, but what he's saying here is that the munkar that is happening, right, of you sitting in your house, even if you're doing nothing, is that you are being negligent of your role in society in spreading the religion. That is the munkar. Right, so you sitting in the house and not telling anyone, right, about this religion, not teaching anybody about religion, being by yourself and being happy with yourself, right, you are actually gaining sin, right, in that you are not concerned with those who are around you, right. And there is a hadith, right, whereby there was Rasulullah related that there was this town, right, and in this town, right, everyone in this town was sinners, right, they were major sinners, but there was this one man in the town, right, who used to sit in a cave, right, that is a bit off the town, and he would sit there and he would worship Allah the whole day. He will not get involved with the people of the town. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, he sent the angels to this town to destroy the town, right, because it was always sinning, right. And then the angels said, Ya Allah, right, there is a man, right, who lives in the cave and he worships you the whole day. He does not disobey you. Right, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, start the punishment with him. So the angel said, why? Ya Rab, why start with him? And then he said, because he saw what his people were doing and he did not say anything to them about it. He did not counsel them, he didn't warn them, but he secluded himself from them. Right, and of course in the Quran itself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about those people of the Bani Israel, like who knew what was right and what was wrong, and they saw their people doing it, and they sat with their people and they did not say anything about it, but they sat with them and they ate with them and they drank with them, right? But they didn't still tell them what you are doing is wrong, right? So that in our religion is wrong, right? For someone to actually be okay, right, with the sins that is going on around them. Right, so of course, to amar bil ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar come in all forms, not just to say it, but your behavior around it, right, is also part of amar bil ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar. Right, just how you behave. And in our time, it's more of the behavior than anything else, right? Because when you say, like, it can be is difficult lah. and the point of it is that when you do amar bil ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar, the point of it is for it to be accepted. You're trying to make it as pleasing and as accepted as possible to those whom you are speaking to. So there's no point you trying to do amar bil ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar when you're going to be harsh about it, right? Because it's going to be rejected. Right? If you're going to be mean about it, if you're going to be blunt about it, right? People are not going. So then you're doing things for like, what's the point? Right? If you're going to be that way in how you advise people, right? So it has to be done with akhlaq. It has to be done maybe not even by saying but by action. Right, so you show that if someone starts gossiping, that you just leave the place, right? You don't really sit there, right? Then they will feel that whenever they begin talking about somebody, you will leave the place, right? So it's just by your actions, inshallah. And then he says that, right? So he says that most people are unaware of the laws of this religion, right? And of the conditions of the prayer, right? Most people, right? And you go around now. I mean, for us, you don't have to go so far. Right, just the people in our own country, majority of them are not aware, right, of the prayer, of the compulsion of the prayer, of the laws of the prayer. Not just the prayer, but things that they believe in. A lot of things, people are unaware, and people are not learning, and they don't even know that they have to be aware about all these things. Right, so he's saying there's so many of them, and he's speaking about the kampung areas, those who are far out in the desert. They don't know the matters of their religion. And for us within our own city itself, there are many people who are not aware of their own religion. Right. So he says that, and then he says that it is on every person. So I said, even if a person, right, if a person knows something about the prayer, right, it is on him to teach other people who do not know about the prayer. You must spread the knowledge, right? And if you don't, then you share with them in their sin, right? And whoever knows one mas'ala, one mas'ala, what was the word they use? One mas'ala. Issue. Right, one issue. Right, then he is an alim. He is a scholar in that issue. He knows that issue, and you can teach other people about that issue if you have learned it. وكثيرا ما يحصل التثبيط وتكاسل أو تثبيط وتكسيل عن شؤون الدعوة إلى الله بأوهام وتخيلات وتعذرات باطلات. فاستمع وتأمل ما قال الإمام عبد الله الحداد في كتابه الدعوة التامة. قال رضي الله تعالى عنه: وقد تعرض لبعض أهل العلم أوهام فتمنعه وتصده عن الدعوة إلى الحق ونشر للعلم، منها أن يقول: إني غير عامل بعلمي فكيف أعلمه وأدعو إليه. وقد ورد من الوعيد في ذلك ما لا مزيد عليه، فيقال له التعليم للعلم من جملة العمل به، والذي يعلم ولا يعمل بعلمه خير بكثير من الذين لا يعمل ولا يعلم. إذا لم يقدر على الخير كله فلا تعجز عن القيام ببعضه، وعليك أن تعلم وعليك أن تجتهد وتعزم على العمل بما تعلم. ولا شك أن الوعيد الوارد في حق من يعلم الناس ولا يعمل بما يعلم هو ألزم وأجدر بالذي لا يعمل ولا يعلم، لأن الأول فرض الله عليه فرضتين فقام بإحداهما وقصر عن الأخرى، والثاني ترك الفريضتين جميعا فهو بالوعيد أولى وبالعقوبة أحرى. Okay, he mentioned some worries about people, right, who before they begin to teach. Right? Can you read?
Often it is delusionary ideas, misconceptions, and erroneous excuses that cause people to become demoralized and lazy in inviting to Allah. Listen and reflect upon the words of Imam Abdullah al-Haddad from his book Ad-Da'wa At-Tamma, The Complete Call. He writes, radiallahu anhu, sometimes the people of knowledge are affected by certain erroneous notions that bar them from calling to Allah, the real subhanahu wa ta'ala, and disseminating knowledge. Among those ideas is that someone might say, I'm not acting upon what I know, so how can I teach others and call them to action, bearing in mind the punishment promised for those who don't practice what they preach? It should be said to him, teaching others is part of acting upon what you know. And one who teaches others and is not fully acting upon that knowledge is much better than one who does not act upon it and does not teach it. If you cannot perform all goodness, then do not fall short of performing some of it. You should teach others while simultaneously struggling to act upon that which you are teaching. There is no doubt that the punishment promised to one who does not act upon that which he teaches is even more justifiable and severe upon one who neither acts nor teaches, because Allah made two things obligatory: acting upon knowledge and teaching knowledge. In the case of the first person, he fulfilled one obligation and fell short in the other. The second abandoned both obligations, so he is more deserving of warning and punishment.
Right. This is from Imam al-Haddad. So as mentioned, Imam al-Haddad, he has a way of writing, whereby his writing is self-explanatory. He explains himself. So he does write down 3 awham. Awham is like basically thoughts that bother you, right? Things that come to your mind that stop you from doing what you want to do, right? So one of it is that people say that, how can I teach when I'm not someone who acts on my knowledge? And many people say that. How can I say to someone when I myself don't do it? Can I teach when I don't, and I myself don't act on it? And there is a verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, right, it is ugly in the sight of Allah that you say what you don't do. So, and there are many warnings against people who say and they don't do. But Imam al-Haddad says, right, that, of course that warning is there, right, but that is not as bad. The moment that you learn something, right, when you learn something, automatically it is wajib on you to act upon it and to teach it. Automatically. Right? 2 things become wajib on you. You must act and you must teach. Right? So he said, if you can't act on it, then at least teach it. Right? So that somebody else can benefit from that knowledge. If you can't benefit, so that's your loss. But don't be because of you, other people cannot benefit. Right? So you tell them, they might act on it. Right? And they might get the reward of doing it. And while you are weak and you are unable to act on this knowledge. Right? So to not do both, it means you don't teach and you don't act, is of course far worse than someone who does not act and he teaches. And Imam al-Haddad actually says in Dawah Tammah that when you teach, right, there will be so much guilt in your heart, right, because you are teaching this and you're not acting on it, right, that one day, in hope, you feel so shy and so ashamed that you act upon it. Right, because you've been saying it to other people, right, this is the strongest way to force yourself to actually do it. Right, because if you don't teach, you might just forget all about it in the first place, and it becomes lost knowledge. Right, but when you teach, right, you will eventually, inshallah, and you place the niyat that when I teach this knowledge, inshallah, I will be acting on it. Right, so that is one of the he dispels, right, that worry that people have. And how can I teach and I don't act on it myself? Right, so don't just teach. Right, teach what is correct, teach what is good. Right, and that is the way we are, because the perfect human being, right, only came once in this world and he left, which is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anyone besides Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not perfect. Right, we're all not perfect. We all have sins. Right, so if people were to say, how can I teach when I have so many sins? Everybody has sins. Right, if everybody was to say that, nobody will be teaching. Right, nobody will want to stand in front of them and teach people about the religion, but people have to. Islam is perfect, and you spread Islam that is perfect, and you don't spread yourself, because yourself is completely imperfect. Right? You can't you can't spread yourself. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spreads His religion, which is why when you bring the religion to other people, right, you yourself have to understand that you are a student of this religion, of this knowledge. Right? You are not a teacher at all. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who teaches, and when you teach them, your children, right, understand that Allah is their teacher. Right, not you. You happen to be there as a vehicle, but you are also learning, right, in your teaching of them. Should we finish it, or it's a bit more like that? Should we finish it? Are you all in a hurry? No? Okay. And then next week we can enter the first wasail. We can handle the first maqsad. Right, I'll just finish reading it. Wa minha, right, so that's the first worry. They feel they can't teach because they don't act. So Imam al-Haddad says, no, I don't think that way. Teach in hope that one day you will act, right? And in fact, to teach and not act is better than not to teach and not to act altogether, right? So he says, that's the first one. And the second one, وَمِنْهَا أَنْ يَقُولْ فِي نَفْسِهِ, for someone who says to himself, إِنَّ الدَّعْوَةَ إلى الله والإرشاد لعباد الله تعالى مرتبة رفيعة ومنزلة شريفة هي من شأن أئمة الهدى والدين ووظيفتهم وأنا لست كذلك ولا من أهله فيحمله استصغاره لنفسه واحتقاره لها وتواضعه وانخفاضه على السكوت عن الدعاء إلى الله وقيام بوظيفة الإرشاد ويتوهم أن ذلك من التواضع المحمود ومعرفة الإنسان بقدر نفسه ووقوفه عند حده وهذا من التوهمات الفاسدة لأن الحق لا يمنع عن الحق والخير لا يصرف عن الخير فعليه أن يجتهد ويشمر في دعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير مع التواضع والخضوع والاستشعار للخشية والخشوع والاعتراف بالتقصير واحتقار النفس وذلك هو الكمال والجمع لأوصاف الرجال الذين لا يسدهم وساوس الشيطان ولا يصرفهم تخيلاته وتلبيساته وترويجه للشر في معارض الخير إلى أن قال وهذه التوهمات التي ذكرناها وما في معناها مما لم نذكره قد تقع لبعض العلماء العاملين الموصوفين بتقوى الله وخشيته انتهى فجزاه الله خيرا من ناسه شقيق وبالله استعانة والتوفيق فوجب على المسلمين الحريصين على إقامة دينهم وكسب رضوان ربهم أن يسعى كل منهم في إقامة خلقات التعليم ونشرها بالتعليم للمتأهل وتشجيع لكل وبذل المال والطاقة الفكرية والجسدية للقادر وتعاونوا على البر والتقوى وصلى الله على سيد المعلمين والداعين حبيب الله محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اقرأي.
One might also think to himself, calling to Allah and inviting the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is an honorable position and a lofty rank. It is the occupation of the guided scholars of faith, and I am not like them and undeserving to be so. His low opinion of himself, humility and humbleness stop him from calling to Allah and counseling people. And he is deluded to think that this is praiseworthy humility, part of knowing one's real worth and stopping at one's limitations. In reality, this is erroneous and incorrect, because truth does not impede truth, and goodness does not detract from goodness. He must struggle and exert effort in calling to guidance and in guiding others to goodness, while maintaining humility, humbleness, lowliness, and fear and awareness of Allah. Admitting one's shortcomings and feeling contempt towards one's ego is part of spiritual perfection and is a characteristic of the people of Allah. Those who are not affected by the whisperings of the devil and are not barred from guidance by the illusions and confusions that he promotes in the guise of good. Some of these false ideas we have mentioned, and similar ones that we have not mentioned, can sometimes plague righteous scholars who are known for their consciousness and fear of Allah. May Allah reward the Imam greatly for being a compassionate counselor, and we seek Allah's assistance and success. Therefore, it is incumbent upon all Muslims who are devoted to establishing their religion and gaining the good pleasure of their Lord to strive to establish sacred circles of learning, diffuse that learning to those who are eligible, encourage all to attend, and for those who are able to spend their wealth and physical and intellectual efforts to bring this to fruition. Cooperate in goodness and piety. Quran,
Surah Ma'idah
5 and then verse 2. May Allah send His peace and mercy upon the master of teachers and callers to Allah, the beloved of Allah, Muhammad, his family and companions.
Alright. So he ends off with another tawahumat, another whispering lah. Right, that stops people from calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first one was those that say, I am not someone who do as I preach. So how can I preach? So the answer was that you need to preach and you need to strive to do it. But don't neglect both. Right, do at least one instead of neglecting both. And if you can do both, then that's better for you. Right, so the second thing is that some people say, how can I teach? I'm not an ustad. I'm not, these are for people who are high. They are, they're sheikh. They are, mashallah. They are very, pious people. Right, so and I'm not that. I'm not like them. I'm nowhere there. Right, and in fact, every single person who teaches thinks the same way. Right, they don't think much about themselves. And the moment they think something about themselves, then they have not gotten what is real knowledge. The moment any sheikh or any teacher or any ustad thinks something about themselves being at some point of some form of level, already there in itself they have failed. Right? They have not understood knowledge. Right? That they feel themselves exalted. Right? So everyone basically, ask anyone. Right? They don't feel themselves high above anybody else. And Habib Omar himself, he said that if he was to see himself as above any of his students in Darul Mustafa, he would close the entire Darul Mustafa. That means till today, he never sees any of his students above him. Right? He is below them. Right? So, and this is how people usually will be. So, if you think that way, that is good. So, if you think you're unworthy, that's good. Right? So, just teach. Of course, you're unworthy. We are all of us are unworthy. Nobody is worthy of carrying this religion. We're all unworthy. But we still carry it. Right? Because, in hope that Allah has mercy on us. Right? So, he says that, that someone who thinks that, no, I can't teach, I can't do, I can't lead, I can't tell, I can't spread the knowledge because I'm not worth it. I am someone who is not worth this level, and that stops him from spreading what is good. Then Imam Al-Haddad says that no, that the truth does not prevent the truth. So the fact that you're thinking this way is stopping you from spreading the truth, then your thinking is wrong. Right? And that goodness does not stop goodness. You think your humility is a good form of humility and is stopping you from teaching other people, then it's a bad form of humility. It is not a good form of humility. It's actually tawadu madhmuma. Right? It is bad form of humility, but you stop yourself from teaching other people. And you need to teach and tell, right? And then spread, but with kindness and with gentleness, to spread. Right? So So and then he mentions that these are of the worries lah that most people will have, right? And when they think themselves as not worthy of teaching. Right? So of course, like you start with those who are around your family. You start small, and you plant in a very strong niyat, very strong intention that you want to bring your family closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of your family, everyone in your family. You want all your cousins, your aunties, your nephews, everybody lah, right, to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So he says, and he ends off the book by saying that it is compulsory. It is compulsory. Right, on every Muslim who is fervently holding on to his religion, right, to fervently holding on to the establishment of his religion, right, and who wants to get the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know nothing brings more happiness to the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam than someone going out there and spreading this religion. That is the number one thing that makes him very happy. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nothing else makes him more happy than someone doing that. Like going out there and telling the people, right, and looking at everybody who is around you with the eye of concern, right, when they don't know how to live their lives for the next world. Right. And then he ends off by saying, and to spend your wealth and your energies and your thinking, and to be very highly concerned, right, about those who are around you, to help them, right, in this world and the next world. وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى, and Allah says in the Quran, Surah Ma'idah, right, and help each other on goodness and on God consciousness. And he ends off with sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ala sayyidil mu'allimin, right, on the best, and maybe Allah sends teachers on the best of teachers, and the best of callers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, the beloved of Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma anfa'na ma 'allamtana wa zidna min al-ilmi wa rizqna min al-'ilmi. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذريتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. ربنا هب لنا من الصالحين. ربنا هب لنا من الصالحين. ربنا هب لنا من الصالحين. اللهم بارك لنا في أولادنا ولا تضرهم، ووفقنا وفقهم طاعتك وارزقنا برهم. اللهم لا تزغ قلوبنا عليهم إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم لا تزغ قلوبنا صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وسلم. الفاتحة على الله يرزقنا العلم النافع وعمل الخالص المقبول وسلوا بذلك قبل نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإلى حضرة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. الفاتحة.